40,000 souls lived aboard Harmony's Edge, and Ambassador Ryla Sen was responsible for every single one of them. The Valori diplomat stood in the command center, her 4 silver arms folded behind her back as she watched the sensor display. Red dots filled the screen like a spreading disease. 812 Ravager warships, moving in perfect formation toward her station. How long? She asked quietly. Subcommander Drex Tomel checked his calculations. The Cathani officer's reptilian scales had turned a pale shade of gray, which Ryla knew meant fear. 72 hours, Ambassador. Perhaps less if they increase speed. Ryla closed her eyes. The Ravagers were legends in the worst possible way. For 3 centuries, they had swept across the outer rim, taking slaves, burning colonies, and leaving nothing but ash behind them. No one had ever stopped them. No one had ever tried. Our defensive fleet? She asked. 12 ships. Drex's voice cracked slightly. Against 800. In the corner of the command center, a human officer sat at his console. Captain Yuri Volkov was Earth's liaison to the station, a quiet man with gray in his hair and calm in his eyes. He had been listening to every word. Ryla activated the emergency broadcast. Within minutes, holographic images of Coalition Council members appeared around her. She explained the situation quickly, watching hope drain from face after face. Admiral Senna Corvallis of the Ethery spoke first. My fleet is 6 days away at maximum speed. I cannot reach you in time. Other responses came. The Luminari fleet was under repair. The Cathani Home Guard could not leave their borders. The Valori emergency force was dealing with pirates in another sector. We could evacuate essential personnel, Admiral Corvallis suggested carefully. Save who we can, and the rest. Ryla demanded. The refugees? The children in our medical ward? Silence answered her. Elder Pava, a Luminari who had lived 800 years, spoke softly. Perhaps negotiation is possible. The Ravagers have accepted tribute before. Their leader has already sent his terms. Drex pulled up the message. Warlord Grath Ironmaw appeared on screen, his scarred face twisted into a smile. Surrender everything. Half the population will be taken as slaves. The rest may live. Ryla felt sick. 40,000 people. 20,000 would be dragged away in chains. And the Ravager's definition of may live was notoriously flexible. We need more time, she said. We need reinforcements. There are none, Admiral Corvallis replied sadly. I am sorry, Ambassador. Prepare your evacuation. Save who you can. The holograms flickered off one by one, leaving Ryla alone with her fear. She turned to look out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, death was coming. Ambassador. She turned. Captain Volkov had risen from his console. The human's face showed no fear, only a strange calm that Ryla found almost irritating. What is it, Captain? I sent a message, he said simply. To Earth. Ryla stared at him. You had no authorization. No. Volkov did not apologize. But I sent it anyway. Earth's fleet is 40 vessels, Drex snapped. What good is 40 against 800? You wasted time on foolishness. Volkov smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. 40 vessels. Yes, that is what we registered with the Coalition. Something in his tone made Ryla pause. What do you mean? Before Volkov could answer, Elder Pavo approached. The ancient Luminari's body glowed with soft blue light as he studied the human. Young one, he said gently, what have your people done? What we always do. Volkov turned back to his console. We prepared for the worst. An alert chimed. Drex checked the sensors and frowned. Ambassador, I am detecting energy signatures. Hyperspace distortions. But the location makes no sense. Where? Everywhere. His scales shifted color again, this time to confusion. There are signatures appearing across the entire sector. Hundreds of them. No, wait. He rechecked his instruments. That cannot be right. How many? Ryla demanded. Drex looked up at her. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Volkov answered instead. I called my people, Ambassador. I called all of them. He met her eyes. And they answered. Ryla grabbed his arm. Captain, Earth's registered fleet cannot help us. 40 ships will die alongside our 12. 40 ships is what we told you about. Volkov gently removed her hand. We did not tell you everything. He glanced at the sensor display, now filling with more and more energy signatures. We never tell anyone everything. What? Elder Pava asked. The human was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Because we remember our own history. We remember what happens when the strong come for the weak. We remember conquest. We remember slavery. We remember genocide. He turned to face them fully. We joined your coalition with smiles and handshakes. But we never forgot what the universe can do to those who are not ready. The sensor display screamed with alerts. Drex's voice shook. Ambassador. The signatures. They are emerging from hyperspace. Ryla ran to the viewport. In the distance, space itself began to tear open. Points of light appeared, growing larger and larger. Ships. Massive ships. More ships than she had ever seen. Her communicator crackled. A human voice, strong and steady, filled the command center. Harmony's Edge. This is Admiral Wei Linzhou of Earth Combined Fleet. Hold your position. We are 2 days ahead of the enemy. A pause. And we brought everyone. Rala could not speak. She could only watch as the stars themselves seemed to multiply. Volkov stood beside her, his reflection visible in the viewport glass. Help is coming, Ambassador, he said quietly. All of it. 347. That was the number of human ships that had arrived in the first hour. Ambassador Ryla stood frozen at the viewport, watching more vessels emerge from hyperspace every few minutes. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers. And then came the dreadnoughts, ships so massive they made coalition battleships look like toys. 412, Subcommander Drex announced, his voice hollow. 430. 451. Elder Pava had not moved from his position near the sensor console. The ancient luminary's glow had intensified, a sign of deep emotion among his kind. In 800 years of life, he whispered, I have never seen such a gathering. Where did they come from? Ryla finally managed to ask. Captain Volkov stood nearby, watching the arrival with something like pride in his eyes. Earth, Luna, Mars, the Belt Colonies, every nation, every fleet, every ship we have. But the coalition registry said 40 vessels. We registered 40 with your government. Volkov shrugged. We built the rest in secret. The number on Drex's screen continued to climb. 500, 600, 700. Why? Ryla demanded. Why hide this? The coalition is your ally. Volkov turned to face her. His expression was patient but firm. Ambassador, your coalition has existed for 3,000 years. In that time, how many times has it faced an enemy it could not defeat? Ryla thought. Perhaps 5 or 6 times. But we always found diplomatic solutions. And how many species went extinct while you negotiated? The question hung in the air like poison. Ryla had no answer because she knew the truth. 14 species had been erased while the coalition debated and discussed. 14 entire civilizations, gone forever. Humans do not forget, Volkov continued. We spent thousands of years killing each other on Earth. Wars, genocides, endless suffering. When we finally stopped, when we finally united, we made a promise. His voice hardened. Never again. Not to ourselves. Not to anyone else. An alert sounded. The final count appeared on screen. 1,247 ships. Drex made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. That is more than the entire coalition navy combined. A communication request appeared. Ryla accepted it with shaking hands. The hologram of a human man appeared. He was perhaps 60 years old, with a stern face and intelligent eyes. His uniform bore more decorations than Ryla could count. Ambassador Sen, he said, inclining his head. I am Grand Admiral Wei Linzhou, commanding officer of Earth Combined Fleet. I apologize for the unannounced arrival. Grand Admiral. Ryla struggled to keep her voice steady. We are grateful for your response. But I must ask, how? Wei smiled slightly. It did not reach his eyes. 80 years ago, we entered your coalition as newcomers. Young, weak, primitive, some called us. He paused. We decided to let you believe that. You deceived us. We prepared. There is a difference. Wei gestured to someone off-screen. I am transmitting our fleet composition now. You will see vessels from every nation on Earth. American carriers, Chinese dreadnoughts, European battlecruisers, Russian destroyers, ships from Africa, India, Brazil, Japan, and 30 other nations. All of them built in secret. All of them ready. The data appeared on Ryla's console. Ship names scrolled past. Lagos, Yamato, Normandy, Moscow, Mumbai, Beijing. Names from human history. each one carrying a legacy she did not fully understand. The Ravagers have 800 ships, she said. Yes. Wei's smile faded. They threatened children, Ambassador. They threatened innocents under our protection. His voice dropped to something cold. They will regret that. Another hologram appeared. Warlord Grath Iron Maw had detected the human fleet and was attempting contact. His scarred face showed confusion. What is this? He demanded. Who are these newcomers? Wei answered before Ryla could speak. I am Admiral Wei of Earth. You have threatened a station under our protection. I am offering you one chance to withdraw. Grath laughed. Protection? The humans? Little traders and merchants playing at soldiers. He leaned forward. I have crushed a dozen species stronger than yours. Your ships mean nothing. Then come and test that theory. Wei's expression did not change. But understand this, Warlord. If you continue your approach, we will not simply defeat you. We will break you. Every ship, every weapon, every dream of conquest you have ever had. We will end it all. The threat hung in the silence. The Grath's eyes narrowed. For a moment, something like doubt crossed his face. Then his pride won. Big words from small creatures. We will see who breaks. The communication ended. Ryla turned to Volkov. He will still come. Yes. Volkov nodded. We expected that. And what happens then? The human looked out at the gathered fleet, at the thousands of warships waiting in perfect formation. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. Then we remind the galaxy why Earth's children learned to fight. He met her eyes. And why we will never stop protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Somewhere in the distance, the Ravager fleet was approaching. Somewhere closer, 1,200 human ships began their final preparations. The battle for Harmony's Edge was about to begin. 12 hours remained before the Ravager fleet would arrive. Ambassador Ryla spent those hours learning things about humans that no coalition diplomat had ever known. She walked through the corridors of Admiral Wei's flagship, the Beijing, and found herself surrounded by humanity's truth. Soldiers from dozens of nations worked side by side. Their uniforms were different. Their languages were different. Their faces showed every shade of brown and pink and everything between. But they moved with a single purpose. You seem surprised, Captain Volkov said, walking beside her. I am. Ryla watched two officers pass them, one pale and blonde, the other dark-skinned with close-cropped hair. They were arguing about tactical formations in heavily accented English, but their body language showed deep respect. Your species has so many divisions. How do you work together like this? Volkov smiled. Practice. We spent centuries fighting each other. The Americans fought the Russians. The Chinese fought the Japanese. Africa was carved up by Europeans. Everyone had enemies. He paused. Then we met the galaxy, and we realized something important. What? That our differences are nothing compared to what we share. We are all from Earth. We are all human. His smile faded. And when someone threatens our people, we remember that very quickly. They entered the main briefing room. Admiral Wei stood before a massive holographic display of the battle space. Around him, officers from every corner of Earth listened with fierce attention. The Ravager fleet will approach from the galactic north, Wei explained, his hands moving the display. Their formation is typical for their species. Aggressive, disorganized. They rely on overwhelming numbers and brutality. A woman with dark skin and bright eyes raised her hand. Her uniform identified her as Captain Nadia Okonkwo of the Dreadnought Lagos. And our response, Admiral? We do not wait for them. We advance. Wei's finger drew a line across the display. Coalition doctrine says hold defensive positions. Let the enemy come to you. Minimize risk. He looked around the room. We are not the coalition. We are humanity. And humanity wins wars by taking the fight to the enemy. A murmur of approval rippled through the officers. Wei continued. Our carriers will launch first. 12,000 fighter craft will engage their screening vessels. While they are distracted, our battle line will push through their center. He pointed to specific positions. Captain Okonkwo, your Lagos will lead the charge. Draw their fire away from the station. Okonkwo grinned. It was not a pleasant expression. With pleasure, Admiral. Commodore Richter, your European carrier group, will support the flank. Lieutenant Commander Tanaka, your fighter squadron will target their command ships. Wei's voice sharpened. We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we do not stop until they break. Ryla felt her heart's beating faster. This was nothing like coalition military briefings, which were careful and cautious and full of discussions about acceptable losses. The humans were not discussing acceptable losses. They were discussing victory. After the briefing, she found Admiral Wei standing alone at a viewport. He was looking at the stars with an expression she could not read. "Admiral," she said carefully, "may I ask you something?" He turned. "Of course, Ambassador. Why? Why build this fleet in secret? Why hide your strength from the coalition?" Wei was quiet for a long moment. "When my grandfather was young, his country was invaded. Millions died. Cities burned. Families were torn apart. He clasped his hands behind his back. He survived because someone stronger protected him. He never forgot that. And so you became the protectors. We became ready." Wei's eyes met hers. "The coalition welcomed us with open arms. You gave us trade, technology, friendship. But you also showed us something else. You showed us that the galaxy is full of ravagers, warlords, slavers, species that take what they want and destroy what they cannot have." Rala could not argue. It was true. "We watched your history," Wei continued. 14 species extinct because no one was strong enough to save them. Billions of lives lost while your councils debated and negotiated. His voice hardened. "We decided that would never happen to anyone we could reach. Not while a single human ship could still fly." A junior officer approached. "Admiral, the fleet is ready. All ships report battle stations." Wei nodded. "Tell them to rest while they can. We fight in 12 hours. As the officer left, Ryla asked one last question. "How many of your people will die tomorrow, Admiral? What is the cost of protecting us?" Wei looked at her with eyes that held no illusion, no false comfort. "Too many," he said quietly. "But not enough to stop us. Never enough to stop us." He walked away toward his command chair, leaving Ryla alone with the stars. Somewhere beyond those stars, 800 enemy ships were coming, and 1,200 human ships were waiting to meet them. Lieutenant Kenji Tanaka sat in the cockpit of his fighter, running through his final checks. Around him, the hangar bay of the carrier Yamato hummed with controlled chaos. Pilots climbed into their ships. Technicians made last-minute adjustments. Voices called out across the noise in Japanese, English, Korean, and a dozen other languages. "Squadron 7, report status," his communicator crackled. "Green across the board," Kenji replied. He glanced at the fighter next to his, where his wingman, Lieutenant Rosa Delgado, was finishing her own preparations. She caught his eye and nodded. Ready. In 6 hours, they would launch into the largest space battle in recorded history. In 6 hours, some of them would not return. Kenji reached into his flight suit and touched the photograph he always carried. His daughter Yuki smiled up at him, her face bright with joy. She was 4 years old. She did not understand why Daddy had to go away, that he had written her a letter that morning. He had told her he loved her. He had told her to be brave. Now he had to be brave himself. On Harmony's edge, Dr. Amara Obi walked through the children's medical ward for the 20th time that day. The young patients watched her with wide eyes. Some of them were old enough to understand what was happening. Most were not. A small Valori girl tugged at her sleeve. Her silver skin was marked with healing burns from the refugee ship that had brought her here. "Doctor, are the bad people coming?" Amara knelt down to meet her eyes. "Some bad people are trying to come, yes. But good people are here to stop them." "The humans?" "Yes." Amara smiled gently. "The humans? Why do they want to help us?" It was a simple question from a child, but Amara found herself struggling to answer. Why? Why had her species traveled across the stars to fight and die for strangers? "Because that is what good people do," she finally said. "They protect those who need protecting." The girl considered this. Then she reached up and hugged Amara tightly. "Thank you for staying." Amara hugged her back. "I would never leave you." On the Ravager flagship, War Chief Braca stood beside his lord and watched the human fleet through the viewport. The enemy ships hung in perfect formation, their running lights steady and unblinking. They did not look afraid. "They are more than we expected," Braca said carefully. Warlord Grath snorted. "Numbers mean nothing against Ravager strength. We have crushed larger fleets before. With respect, my lord, we have never fought humans before." Grath turned on him with a snarl. "You doubt me? You doubt our warriors." "I doubt nothing, my lord." Braca chose his words carefully. "But these humans hide their strength. They let us believe they were weak. That suggests intelligence, planning, patience." He paused. "These are not the traits of easy prey." For a moment, Something flickered in Grath's eyes. Uncertainty. Fear. Then it was gone, replaced by rage. We are Ravagers. We take what we want. We destroy what resists. He grabbed Bracca's armor and pulled him close. And we do not retreat from merchants and farmers playing at war. Bracca lowered his head. Yes, my lord. But in his heart, doubt remained. On the Beijing, Admiral Wei stood before his crew for the final address. His voice carried through speakers on every human ship, reaching every sailor, soldier, and pilot in the fleet. In a few hours, we will face an enemy that has terrorized this region of space for 300 years. They have burned colonies. They have enslaved millions. They have murdered without mercy and called themselves strong. He paused, letting the words sink in. They are not strong. They are bullies. They attack those who cannot fight back. They flee from those who can. His voice rose. Today, we show them what true strength looks like. Today, we show them what humanity does when someone threatens the innocent. Across the fleet, hands clenched on weapons. Hearts beat faster. Some of us will not return. That is the price of protection. That is the cost of doing what is right. Wei's eyes burned with fierce light. But those who fall today will be remembered forever. Their names will be carved in stone on every world we save. Their sacrifice will echo through history. Silence. Then Wei spoke the final words. All ships, prepare for battle. And remember why we fight. Not for glory. Not for conquest. We fight because there are children on that station who deserve to live. We fight because there are innocents who called for help. We fight because that is what humans do. His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow reached every ear. We fight because we are humanity. And humanity protects its own. The communication ended. Across 1,200 ships, crews moved to their stations. Weapons powered up. Engines hummed. Lieutenant Tanaka sealed his cockpit. Dr. Obi gathered her medical staff. Subcommander Drex watched from the station as the human fleet began to advance. That War Chief Bracca felt cold fear in his chest. And Ambassador Ryla whispered a prayer to gods she barely believed in. The battle for Harmony's Edge had begun. The first wave of human fighters launched like a swarm of angry hornets. 12,000 craft poured from the carrier bays, their engines burning bright against the darkness. Lieutenant Tanaka led Squadron 7 into the chaos, his hands steady on the controls. All wings, engage enemy screens. The command came through his radio. Clear a path for the battle line. Tanaka pushed his fighter forward. Ahead, Ravager interceptors were scrambling to meet them. They were bigger than human craft, more heavily armed, but they flew without formation, without discipline. Squadron 7, follow my lead, Tanaka ordered. Attack pattern Delta. His fighters split and regrouped in a deadly dance. The Ravager pilots did not understand coordinated tactics. They fought as individuals, each seeking personal glory. The humans fought as one. Tanaka's first kill was a scarred interceptor that never saw him coming. His second was its wingman. His third was an enemy ace who hesitated for half a second too long. Enemy command ship at bearing 247, Rosa Delgado reported. It is directing their fighter response. Then we take it out. Tanaka pulled his squadron into attack formation. All craft, concentrate fire. The Ravager command ship was massive, bristling with weapons. But size meant nothing against precision. Squadron 7 struck like a surgical knife, their missiles finding weak points in armor, their cannons tearing through shields. The command ship exploded in a ball of fire. Ravager fighters scattered in confusion, but victory came with a cost. Tanaka watched Rosa's fighter take a direct hit. Her craft spun away, trailing smoke and flame. Rosa, I am hit. Her voice was calm despite the damage. Ejecting now. Finish the mission, Kenji. He saw her escape pod launch just before her fighter exploded. She would survive. Others would not be so lucky. Behind the fighter screen, the human battle line advanced. Captain Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Lagos as her dreadnought pushed through enemy formations. Ravager ships tried to block her path. They failed. All batteries, continuous fire, she ordered. Do not let them regroup. The Lagos was a monster of steel and fury. Her main guns could crack a moon. Her armor could withstand direct hits from enemy capital ships. And her captain was determined to prove that human engineering was the finest in the galaxy. Point 3 Ravager cruisers moved to intercept. Okonkwo smiled. Target the lead ship. full power to forward weapons. The Lagos fired. The Ravager cruiser simply ceased to exist. The other two ships tried to flee. They did not make it. Admiral Wei, the center line is breaking, Okonkwo reported. We are pushing through. Maintain pressure, Wei replied from the Beijing. Do not give them time to recover. Across the battle space, human ships executed maneuvers that coalition observers could barely follow. Destroyers darted between enemy vessels, their torpedoes finding vital systems. Cruisers formed protective screens around carriers. Battleships traded fire with Ravager dreadnoughts and won. Warlord Grath watched his fleet crumble and felt something he had never felt before. Fear. How, he demanded. How are they doing this? War Chief Braca had no answer. The humans were not fighting like any species Grath had ever faced. They did not defend. They attacked. They did not wait. They pushed. They moved with impossible coordination, as if a single mind controlled every ship. They have trained for this, Braca realized. They have spent decades preparing for exactly this kind of battle. Grath slammed his fist against his command chair. Signal the reserve fleet. All ships forward. Overwhelm them with numbers. But the numbers were no longer on his side. 3 hours into the battle, 200 Ravager ships had been destroyed. Another 100 were crippled. Human losses were a fraction of that. Then came the boarding parties that no species had attempted close combat against Ravagers in centuries. The very idea was considered suicide. But human Marines did not know the meaning of impossible. Shuttles breached the hull of Grath's flagship. Armored soldiers poured through the gaps, their weapons blazing. Ravager warriors met them with blades and claws. The humans won anyway. They are insane, a Ravager captain screamed over the communication channel. They are fighting hand to hand. They are actually enjoying it. Braca watched his warriors fall to human rifles and grenades. He watched his lord's flagship become a slaughterhouse. And he understood something that Grath never would. The humans were not merchants and farmers. They were predators. They had simply been hiding their teeth. 6 hours after the battle began, Warlord Grath Iron Maw surrendered. Admiral Wei accepted the surrender from the bridge of the Beijing. His face showed no triumph, no satisfaction, only exhaustion. All Ravager vessels will stand down immediately, Wei announced. Those who surrender will be treated as prisoners of war. Those who continue to fight will be destroyed. Most of the remaining Ravager ships lowered their weapons. A few tried to flee. Human destroyers ran them down. When it was over, the final count was devastating. 487 Ravager ships destroyed, 212 captured. The rest scattered across the stars, their warlord in chains. Human losses, 89 ships. 12,000 personnel killed or missing. On Harmony's edge, Ambassador Ryla wept. She wept for the fallen. She wept for the saved. She wept because she finally understood what humans were. They were protectors. And they paid for that protection in blood. 3 days after the battle, Dr. Amara Obi stood in her medical ward and watched a human nurse change the bandages on a Ravager prisoner. The enemy warrior had lost an arm in the fighting. He was in pain. He was terrified, and the humans were treating him with kindness. Why? The Ravager asked, his voice weak. I came to enslave your friends. I came to kill. Why do you help me? The nurse, a young man from Brazil, looked up with gentle eyes. Because you are hurt. Because you need help. He finished the bandaging and patted the prisoner's shoulder. We do not stop being human just because someone else stopped being kind. Ambassador Ryla witnessed this exchange from the doorway. It was the 10th such moment she had seen that day. Humans treating enemy wounded. Humans sharing food with prisoners. Humans showing mercy to those who had shown none. She found Admiral Wei in the children's ward. The fearsome commander who had shattered an enemy fleet was sitting on the floor, surrounded by young patients of a dozen species. He had brought candy and toys from the supply ships. He was teaching a luminary child how to fold paper into the shape of a bird. Admiral, Ryla said softly. Wei looked up. His face was tired but peaceful. Ambassador, please sit. She lowered herself to the floor beside him. The children continued their games around them, their laughter filling the air. I do not understand your people, she admitted. No, Wei smiled. What confuses you? 3 days ago, you destroyed 500 warships. You fought with a fury I have never seen. And now you sit here making toys for children. She shook her head. How can the same species be both things? Wei was quiet for a moment. Then he held up the paper bird he had been folding. On Earth, we have a legend. A person who folds 1,000 of these can make a wish come true. He handed the bird to the Luminari child, who clutched it with delight. We are a species of contradictions, Ambassador. We are capable of great violence and great kindness, great cruelty and great love. How do you choose which to be? We choose based on what we are protecting. Wei's eyes found the children around them. When we fight to protect this. Innocence, hope, the future. His voice softened. We do not fight because we enjoy destruction. We fight because destruction is sometimes the only way to preserve what matters. Later that day, Ryla attended a funeral service for the human dead. 12,000 names were read aloud. 12,000 candles were lit. Representatives from every coalition species stood alongside human mourners. Elder Pava spoke for the coalition. These humans came from across the stars to defend strangers. They gave their lives for people they had never met. In 800 years, I have never seen such selfless courage. Lieutenant Tanaka stood at the front of the assembly, his arm in a sling. Beside him was an empty space where Rosa Delgado should have been standing. She had survived her ejection but would spend months recovering. When the ceremony ended, Tanaka walked to the memorial wall where names were being carved into stone. He found his wingman's name, placed his squadron patch beneath it, and whispered words in Japanese that needed no translation. Goodbye, my friend. Thank you. Captain Volkov found Ambassador Ryla standing alone on the observation deck. She was staring at the stars, her 4 arms wrapped around herself. You are writing your report, he said. It was not a question. Yes. She turned to face him. The Coalition Council will want to know everything. What happened? How it happened? Why? She paused. I do not know how to explain the why. Then let me help. Volkov stood beside her at the viewport. 80 years ago, we joined your coalition with nothing. We were young and weak and afraid. But we looked at the galaxy and saw something familiar. We saw what we had been. Divided. Violent. Selfish. You saw yourselves. We saw who we used to be. And we saw what we could become if we made a different choice. He clasped his hands behind his back. On Earth, we learned something through centuries of suffering. The strong exist to protect the weak. Not because it is easy, not because it is profitable, because it is right. Ryla considered this. Your species paid a terrible price for that belief. We always have. We always will. Volkov's voice was steady. But we would rather die protecting the innocent than live watching them suffer. 6 months later, the first joint Earth Coalition patrol launched from Harmony's Edge. Human and alien crews served side by side. Their ships marked with symbols from both civilizations on the bridge of the patrol ship Unity. A young Valori cadet approached Captain Volkov. Her silver skin was marked with the burns she had carried since childhood, a refugee who had grown up to join the service that saved her. Captain, she asked, will humans always answer distress calls? Even from strangers? Even when it costs you? Volkov looked at her with warm eyes. He remembered the night when a single message had brought 1,200 ships across the stars. He remembered the battle. He remembered the dead. He remembered why they had come. Every single time, he said softly, that is what family does. And now, young one, you are family too. The patrol ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew toward the unknown. Behind them, Harmony's Edge floated peacefully among the stars. And in the memorial hall, 12,000 names glowed eternally, a testament to humanity's most enduring truth. When someone needs protection, humans will come, all of them.